They need the money when there's no war. 40% of Russian budget is digging shit from the ground and selling it to other people. It's a rickety ass economy with no modern basis. It's just the most unsophisticated economy in the world.
Tom Nash, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Chris. We could not have picked a better time to talk. I think that pretty much right now is 2022, and yet somehow, don't you feel like this is 1960s and we're dealing with the nuke crisis again? I mean, this is insane.
What a time to be a Russian, man.
Yeah, not a good time to be a Russian, to be honest. Russia is canceled. I don't know if you heard. Literally. I mean, I think Putin miscalculated cancel culture. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He's too old to understand how it works. Like, we're canceled.
But cancel culture up against a 200,000 person army with missiles and an air force, surely that's not a big deal.
Look, even Hollywood, who sent John Cena to apologize to China, is now not sending movies to Russia, bro. I mean, look at the countries, I said it earlier today, that voted with Russia on the UN General Assembly. Iran, Syria, Eritrea, and Belarus, which for all intents and purposes, Belarus is just part of Russia, bro. So, you don't have a lot of friends left, my guy, if you're Putin. Oh, it's tough. There's do you know the channel No Fuckers?
No.
So, No Fuckers is a Russian channel run by a guy named Roman, and he spells it with NFKRZ. That's how the channel name. And he's a really cool dude. And he just made a video showing exactly what it looks like to get money off of ATM in Moscow, or sorry, St. Petersburg. So basically showing like a bunch of 200 people trying to get into the door into the bank, and the security guard saying, "There's no money here. Get the post-apocalyptic scenes out of Moscow and St. Petersburg. Basically, no money in the ATMs, nothing works, credit cards don't work. Pretty much anywhere you have to pay with cash, and I mean you can't get it." Now the crazy part is now there's new regulation in Russia. Basically, if you own any foreign currency, you have 72 hours or so to exchange it to rubles, like 80% of it. You can't keep it anymore.
So if you have in your bank account, if you had some dollars or some euros or some GBP,
yep.
What happens if you don't convert it?
Legal sanctions. I mean, you don't want to test it out. If you're a law-abiding citizen, I mean, look, the problem is, what do central banks do? What's the main job of the central bank? To make sure that the state-sponsored currency doesn't go ballistic. It needs to be stable. The way you do it is you regulate it like an oven. And the way you regulate it is with buying and selling, right? If your state-sponsored currency is going down, you buy some of it. And if it's going too much up, you sell some of it, right? To do that, you need dollars, my guy. You need foreign currency to regulate. And if you don't have foreign currency, basically, and there's a panic mode, which is definitely is the case right now, everybody's selling out. That's why the ruble is now rubble. It's pretty much, it's nothing. And that's why they're telling you, hey, sell all your foreign currency, because the central banks literally needs just to take it from the citizens right now. Just to somehow regulate.
They need foreign currency liquidity from their citizens so that they can use it to control their own. So what's happened to the state of the ruble now?
It's very close to, it's on the path to 1998.
What's that mean?
That means hyperinflation. So there's a few economists who commented on this, and I can tell you from friends on the ground that like prices of electronics have gone like 40% up within 5 days. There's a lot of economists that are saying that if this continues for a few more days, we're looking at anywhere from 50 to 70% inflation within a week, bro. This is not 1984. When you take a country off the grid, this is what happens. It basically, money becomes worthless, hyperinflation, and then you sell everything you own for your next lunch. This is literally what happened in Russia in the late 90s. We've seen this happen. And the problem is that while 1998 happened, Russia was not spending $20 billion a day on the war, which is something you also have to take into account. That war is costing a lot of money. Not to mention the fact that this rickety ass army is stuck in the mud because of a logistical nightmare. But I mean, even that, whatever attempt of, I don't understand. I'm not a military strategist. I don't understand this. All I'm saying, I'm a money guy. This war is expensive, and he just got cockblocked from accessing any sort of foreign currency.
All right, so
that was his biggest mistake, by the way.
Let's go from the absolute top. People that don't understand what's happened in terms of financial sanctions, what the impacts have been, what they actually mean for Russia. There was a story about SWIFT was going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. Now it's happened. Yeah. Let's just take it from the top all the way down. What's happened financially with regards to Russia?
You have to understand we're starting from the middle of the story, but we can do it. But we have to go back to the origins.
Take us from the start, man. Go from the beginning.
No. But let's start with the middle, and then go back. So Putin's plan all along was basically to create a feud between NATO itself. So NATO is basically, to be honest, three countries that dominate NATO. US, it's Germany, and it's Great Britain or England or UK, whatever you want to call it. I get confused. I never know what the fuck you guys are called, bro. Anyways, so it's like Switzerland. Which language do they speak? I don't understand. What are their nationality? I'm so confused by Switzerland, bro. What is this country? What's the language? Have you ever, Swiss people, bro? They're more confused than Canadians. And I love Swiss people, and I love me some Canadians. But check this out. Basically, Putin said, hey, listen, the Germans, they need me. Now that they've basically shut down nuclear reactors, and I understand why they did it, right? And they don't want to burn coal anymore out of environmental concerns. They need my gas. And I own them because 60% of Germany's energy is coming from Russia. Imagine having that kind of power, especially in the winter. I don't know how. You think you know how much it's getting cold? You don't know cold until you've seen true German cold, bro. I mean, I know you guys invented the color damp over there in the UK, but I mean, true German cold is it's vicious. Even now, even in February, even in March, it's going to be cold for a while. Now, imagine having that sort of power if you're Russia, and on the flip side of it, you have another dominant NATO member, which is the US, which doesn't give a fuck about Putin's energy. They couldn't give less fucks about it. I thought
that they were relatively dependent on Putin's energy because they've shut down their own energy independence.
That's Germany.
No, I thought that America was the same as well.
America is energy independent, which is exactly where you want to be. America has their own natural gas. They have their own oil. They have everything they need internally. They don't need to buy. They buy shit, but I mean, they're energy independent, which means they don't need anybody else.
I thought that they'd scaled back their production, their pipelines. They were increasingly dependent on Russia. Are you saying that that's not true?
They don't. I don't exactly know the numbers of how much they're buying and selling, but once you have potential energy independence, it doesn't really matter. I don't know exactly how much they're buying. To my understanding, US is not dependent. It's nowhere near, if anything, to what's going on in Germany, in Italy, and then generally in the EU. We can look up the numbers later, but I don't think so. For years and years, the European Union have been basically trying to have this debate about, well, everybody's too dependent on Russia. So 40% of the European gas consumption is Russia. And the worst of them all is Germany with 60%. And they haven't done nothing about it because, I mean, why would you? It's cheap gas, it's convenient, and, it's working. Why talk about something that might happen one day, right? Why prepare? So when Putin, I think, started this, and that's why, let's divide the world, right? You have the people who are hawkish on Putin, which is the US, and you have the dovish, which is EU and mainly Germany, up until just a few days ago. That's the way it always worked. And every time there's a little bit of a problem, Germany is appeasing and basically saying, okay, chill. And the US is like, sanctions. So Putin knew that if he's going to start this turmoil in Ukraine, whatever happens, he knew he's going to get sanctioned by the US. That's why he completely de-dollarized his entire exports. He went from 95% dollars to 10% dollars.
When was that?
For the past 4 years, he's been slowly prepping for this. Now he has some yens, but mainly it's euros because he never thought that the Germans will basically say, well, I mean, you're gone too far because they can't. And there is a reason why he did this when he did this. And the reason people saying, oh, it's Trump, it's not about Trump or Biden. It's about inflation in the US, which is a 40-year high, which means they can't afford high oil prices. And because even though they don't buy really, and we can check the numbers later, Russian oil, they buy shit that are being produced with Russian oil, which means they'll feel the price. And besides, oil is a global pricing mechanism, so it doesn't really matter. So he started this knowing that inflation in the US is super high, so they're super sensitive to oil prices, and also in the winter. So he knows that the Europeans don't want any interruptions right now. And I think that his thought process was, well, I'm gonna push in Ukraine. They're not gonna interrupt with me because Ukraine is not NATO, and they will not risk a nuclear war with me for Ukraine. And the Germans are basically going to get into a fight with the US. And then I'm going to destabilize NATO, and I'm going to create a fight between them, and I'll take Ukraine. And I'll be ready for US sanctions because I'm completely in euros.
Yeah, so the presumption was that Germany wasn't going to push back because of their energy dependence on Russia, and that America would want to push back because it's relatively energy independent. This would create conflict between Germany specifically as one of them and America. America wants more sanctions, Germany wants fewer sanctions. There's your friction. Meanwhile, you can move forward. Is that what you're saying the plan was financially?
Precisely. And if you look at the first few days of the military operation, this is exactly how it played out. You remember how Germany refused to allow anybody to send German-made arms to Ukraine in the beginning, and how they just agreed to send some helmets over there? Now, Germany has a long-standing embargo on they don't send traditionally weapons to conflict regions because of their history, obviously. But I mean, there are a lot of explaining to do, but I mean, all I'm saying is, so Germany was basically pushing back in the beginning, and they were actually more closer to the German position because when it started, the narrative was, well, if he stops with these pieces of Ukraine, which he already de facto owns, let's be honest, since 2014, if he stops with Lugansk and Donetsk, we'll just let him have it. That was the sentiment, and that was being led by Germany. Like, you know what? Fuck it. He already owns it anyways. He just makes it official. We don't care. And I think that his biggest miscalculation, and I think, tell me if you think that's right, Chris. When you surround yourselves with yes men and you completely kill anybody with an opposing opinion, you create this echo chamber where I think nobody told him, hey, the Germans might push back. I don't think anybody in his team actually told him that. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a very famous viral clip that's circulating where he was interrogating his own head of intelligence about whether they should or should not invade Ukraine. And the guy's like, and you're talking about the head spy of Russia. So it's a bad man. It's not this is a killer, bro. Okay. And he was basically up there and saying, well, Mr. Putin, I think we should maybe try and negotiate a little bit more. It's like, and then he gave him the death stare. It's like, are you saying that we should negotiate more? I said, no, I don't. Like, basically, you could.
Why
see
was this televised?
Oh, he televised the whole thing. There was like this kangaroo horde. So he put all of them, like he was at the head of the table, like 30 meters away. They all got a chair, and he went one by one asking his head advisors if they should invade Ukraine or not.
So is that basically a test of compliance? It's, will you say yes to me when I want to do? Like, everybody knows what he wants to do. Is he actually looking for pushback?
It's a theater. He's not looking for pushback. It's a theater.
Right, okay, yeah, so that's what I mean. Can you try, just one thing that I've thought there, obviously you speak Russian, and for everybody else, what we're doing is we're looking at the subtitles or the dubbing over the top. How would you characterize Putin's demeanor with the way that he speaks? You know, we have people like a Barack Obama, who's quite a powerful orator, sort of a peaceful, calm. How would you characterize the way that Putin is?
It's a very good question. I've never been asked that, you know. He's very different from other world leaders. He's very articulate in Russian, even though he's kind of a simple guy. He's not like hyper educated, and he doesn't use sophisticated words. but there's a certain conviction in the way he says things, which uh, the way Russians have been basically, mm, we've been conditioned to look for the strong man. Russia, if you take out the 10 years of 1990 to 2000, we always had a guy. Okay, that's our guy. They always, they don't need Barack Obama. Barack Obama would not last in Russia, bro. Uh, Donald Trump probably would. But you see where I'm going with this? So he's much closer to Donald Trump than Barack Obama. He's basically, he'll say what he thinks, and he'll be very aggressive, and he's not going to play politically correct. Like in his speech about the war, he was basically saying, "Hey, Ukraine doesn't have a right to exist. It's run by a bunch of drug addicts and neo Nazis, and we're going to take it back because Ukraine is not even a real country. It's just a bunch of idiots who are puppet government." Blah blah blah. It's like no world leader talks like that. And can you imagine anybody? And it's really tailor suited for the Russian audience.
He's the hero
Mainly,
that they're going to be seduced by.
yes. And also, don't forget, he controls all the media internally. Like Russian people are not that exposed. At least, like the older generation, they don't expose to Reddit and shit. So that's the news they're getting.
All right, so take me back. That's the situation, at least when the initial invasion occurred. Run through some of the financial sanctions that have happened and what the impact has been on Russia from there.
Well, mainly the main thing they did is, look, they took individual banks off of SWIFT, which is pretty much a death sentence to banks. SWIFT is basically a system where banks, a unified, standardized system where banks can talk to each other to transfer money internationally. There's I don't remember the full words. It's a Belgian system. It's been adopted worldwide. If you take banks off of that system, it's pretty much you're screwed. Now they did that, and what was interesting is they also went for the Russian national bank, not just individual. They went for the biggest banks in Russia, not all of them, but also they went for the central bank.
When you say went for, what do you mean?
They basically took it off partially from SWIFT. Now here's the thing: when they sanctioned the central bank and they're saying nobody can touch that, nobody can work with this bank. I mean, technically they can still transfer money, technically, but nobody in the right mind would do it, because when you have the US and the EU and the rest of the world, there's literally everybody's basically saying we're not dealing with you. It's basically they're taking away his war chest. That bank was the war chest that he built for this. So he created, his central bank is sitting on $650 billion of cash.
In dollars?
In foreign currency, various foreign currencies. Some of it, 130 billion is in gold, which is, I mean, his to keep. I mean, that money we can't touch. But everything else is foreign currency. It's dollars and euros and whatever. It's a mixture. And them taking away about 500 out of the 640 billion and basically saying, hey, you can't touch this, it's really limiting to what he can do, because obviously it's gonna be a death sentence to the economy.
For an idiot like me who doesn't understand how the financial markets work, when you say you can't touch this, that's I'm going to guess that's technically not right. He could touch it. The point is that it's only useful if he's then able to trade it with a country that's prepared to buy it. And by being taken off of SWIFT, the function that he was able to exchange that. Okay, yeah. So it's not like the money's gone, but the only function that the money has is when it's in trade with another country. And because he can't do that because of SWIFT, that's now being killed.
It's de facto. The technicals are not that important. De facto is the money is not usable, which is the important part. And when the money is not usable, it's basically there's a war machine that needs to be fed, and he doesn't have the finance to feed it. And the problem is when you have that, look, it's an expensive war. Ukraine isn't, you remember when he invaded to Georgia? Not the state in the US. He invaded the country called Georgia. It was a couple 100,000 people. Ukraine is 1/3 of the size of Russia. And Russia is ginormous. Ukraine is a massive country. Like 30, 40 million people. It's insanely huge. I don't even know how to explain to you this. And the thing about Ukraine is which is the second part where I think he misunderestimated what's going on, is that like with Germany, that basically came out and said, you know what, this has gone too far. We dare you not to send the gas to us, because when Germany came out and said this, they're still on the gas. To my knowledge, there's not been any interruptions in the provision of gas, because Germany is basically telling them, hey, we call your bluff. Like, you need this as much as we need the gas.
Because
Russia,
they need the money from Germany.
they need the money when there's no war. 40% of Russian budget is digging shit from the ground and selling it to other people, bro. It's a rickety ass economy with no modern fucking basis. It's just the most unsophisticated economy in the world, bro. So when, like, almost half of your economy is selling energy. So I dare you. They basically told him, we dare you not to send the gas to us. We dare. And he didn't. It's still going on. So they called this bluff. More importantly, what he didn't actually take into account is Germany saying, you know what? We're done being like kumbaya around the campfire. We're going to arm ourselves to the teeth. And because this diplomacy thing isn't working with you. You're crazy. So, and again, a certain amount of circumstances happened that I don't think he understood. When Angela Merkel stepped down, nobody really knew who Olaf Scholz is and what kind of guy he is. Apparently, he's the kind of guy that don't take no shit from nobody, bro. Because he just came out on Friday and said, hey, yeah, we're going to spend 100 billion euros this year on upgrading our military. And from now on going forward, 2% of our GDP, which is insane, bro, is going to go to military. Because without the stick, this diplomacy thing is meaningless. We just saw what you did in Ukraine. So he basically created a unification of NATO. They're all on board right now. He's isolated. And Germany is basically becoming a fucking military superpower, which is exactly what he didn't want. So it's a gross miscalculation. Now, the main problem here is, and that boggles my mind how he didn't think about it. When Ukraine, bro, some of the toughest people I know are Ukrainians, bro. Like, these are people. I have Ukrainian friends who can live a whole week on a potato and a fucking egg, bro. Like, you haven't seen toughness until you've seen some Ukrainian. Like, I'm not even exaggerating, bro. These are tough people. They live off the land. You know what they did to the Nazis, bro? Like, they will hide in the woods for 20 years and fucking come and stab you in the ass every day. If you're talking about horrible guerrilla warfare, bro, and like partisans, like, Ukraine is never gonna fucking be quiet, bro.
This is
like,
what. So I said that I'd had that Jake Hanrahan conflict reporter on recently, and he was telling me that one of the problems that you have if Russia does end up taking, let's say it takes Kiev, right? That then once you've managed to stop moving forward, it goes house to house. It goes guerrilla warfare. You don't know if the person that's walking down the street with the overcoat on is going to buy a bottle of milk, or if he's got an AK-47 under there and a Molotov.
And most likely he has an AK-47 because they fucking gave those out like candy, bro. Can you imagine a country that that's giving out AK-47s? You know, come over to the townhouse, grab your AK-47 and a couple of magazines.
Yeah. Fighting
side
by side with Vasily Lomachenko and Alexander Usyk.
Bro, what about the brothers, the Klitschko brothers, bro?
What are they doing?
I mean, they're literally on the fucking barricades, bro, with the other guys.
Did I see? I saw a post on Instagram earlier on today saying that they'd shot some people. They were like, "Oh yeah, we killed 10 people today."
I don't know. There's probably a lot more violence going on that we know of, and probably there's innocent people getting shot, because when you arm citizens with AK-47s, there's a lot of people who are going to unnecessarily get hurt.
Can you try and... So I had this conversation about Ukraine. Obviously, you've got friends, I'm going to guess, that are still in Russia, maybe even some extended family that are in Russia. What's the atmosphere like in there? What's the sense?
Well, there was a Russian CNBC was on today, and they had this lady talking to a guy who's like a professional bond trader and shit. And he was basically saying, you know what? I think I'm going to have to look for a new job as a fucking Santa Claus because this is gone. He's like, well, that's once a year. So we'll figure it out. Then he pops out a bottle of booze and he just drinks it on air. It's like, this is over. I mean, it's comedic and it's kind of funny, but I mean, it's really sad if you think about it, because the vast majority of people who are going to get hurt by this are basically being held hostage, if you think about it. It's just regular people who want to go to work, come home, eat lunch, fuck their wife, go to bed, wake up the next morning, do the same shit every day. They don't. I mean, I don't know a lot of Russian people who want Russia to be at war with Ukraine. It's literally as crazy as U.S. going to war with Canada. It's unthinkable to me.
Is the split there majoritively age, do you think? Are you going to have people that are a little bit older that are probably going to be more in support?
No, it's crazy. Like most, okay, so it's crazy. So older people, they tell you, oh, we don't want the war in Ukraine, but we support Putin. The older people, they're in love with him. And the younger people are like, they're basically like, what the fuck is this? The hell is going on, bro? I mean, look, there's this theme that's I've seen a lot of pseudo experts talk about it, and they say, well, what if Canada signed a treaty with China for a strategic alliance and they put nukes on their border with the US? Would US not go to war with Canada? I mean, theoretically, maybe. We don't know. But the fact is that we have a country that's been talking about joining NATO. It's not even in the cards yet. They don't have any nukes because they gave their nukes up in 1994, by the way, for assurances by the West that they'll protect them if Russia ever invades. We saw how that played out. So a country with no nukes, they're not a part of the... Okay, they want to join NATO. Okay, I get it. But I totally understand why people are pissed off at this. It's like this is completely uncalled for. It's just senseless violence. And I think, personally, that there's a lot of religious elements to this. I think that he's 70 years old, or almost 70. And I think he has this fantasy of recreating whatever it was when he was the head of the KGB, or whatever he was.
Well, you said on your video that to be a Tsar, you can't just have one country. You need to have a kingdom. And right now, he doesn't have a kingdom. I would say, based on the videos that I've seen, it appears to be one insult after another by NATO pushing forward, doing things that they said that they weren't going to do, compromising on promises that they previously made. And then this is Putin. Maybe the timing is right with regards to the season, with regards to where the currency is at in America, such and so. Yeah, I get that. But I don't know. Given what I know about the internals of his political movement, it kind of doesn't surprise me. There was going to come a point where this was going to happen.
But let me ask you a question, Chris. NATO, if you look at the map from 1997 to right now, NATO has definitely expanded. And they took a lot of his former allies with them. But the question I want to ask of you is one simple question. Okay, NATO is expanding beyond what was the original understandings when the Berlin Wall fell. So Russia got basically pushed aside, and the West said, hey, you don't matter anymore. Fine, that happened. And I understand the insult. Definitely understand the insult by somebody who grew up in that system, went through the humiliation, became, I think, a taxi driver after that, and had to climb all the way back. Like, he used to be a taxi driver after the collapse of the USSR. So he experienced the brunt of it. Like, he was stationed in East Berlin, like a KGB, blah, 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 going up in the ranks, and then I understand that. But assuming all of it is 100% true, does this give you the right to say, well, NATO is overexpanding, so I'm going to take this sovereign country who does not do anything offensive against me. I'm going to take this sovereign country and I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to bombard fucking the living hell out of it. I'm just going to take it because NATO is overexpanding. I mean, I don't see the justification here.
No, me neither. But I think it's too simplistic, the people that are accusing Putin of just being an idiot or a madman or a psychopath. The guy may be aggressive in nature and he may be prepared to do things where the tolerances don't make sense for other countries. But, step by step, again, I don't think that it's the right thing to do, obviously, because I'm not a psychopath. But
I like that.
Like, there is a logical progression that we've gone through here, right? To get Russia as a country to the stage where this has happened. It's not as if it's something that's just happened overnight. Again, the response isn't the way that it should have gone. But it does seem to me like the people that it's too simplistic and too basic of an explanation to say, oh, it's just
No, I don't think he's just doing it because he's just a James
land
Bond
grabbing
villain.
maniac.
Yeah, he's not a James Bond villain. This is not a movie. This is not like there's definitely there's definitely strategic
Calculation.
think. Yeah, but also there's a very famous researcher that passed away in 1989, Barbara Tuchman. She used to write a lot about political science and geopolitics and global politics. And one of the main lines that you can see throughout her work is basically she showed how some of the most influential, critical decisions that were made on the global politics ring was driven by emotional, impulsive responses by people who were at a position of power. And she gives a lot of examples. The most amusing one to me was her going back to the French Revolution and basically, well, how did Louis didn't understand what was going on? And basically, she said, well, he was busy with trying to figure out if Marie Antoinette was fucking around with his brother or not for the past 2 years before the revolution. So he was fucking psychopath, neurotic, jealous husband. So he completely missed the doomsday scenario. But there's definitely a mixture, I think, of everything here. There's definitely strategic thinking behind. Well, he wants to clap back at NATO for sure. There's definitely, I think, him saying, "I'm going to bring back the USSR, or at least some sort of a quasi strong kind of Russia 2.0." And he's been very systematic with getting it done. By the way, for all intents and purposes, Belarus is no longer even Belarus; it's just a name. So he already has the guy in place to replace Zelensky. So, however, at the end of the day, and here's where I think the problem lies. Strategic, yes. Emotional, somewhat for sure. But if you and I would have thought before that, given the balance of power with the European energy consumption, would Germany actually go all look full on ham on him like they did and fucking militarize and sanction? Like, I don't think anybody could have seen Germany pull that stunt on him. I think he was as surprised as most analysts.
What's happened in the US stock market then? How's that responded?
To be honest, somewhat okay. So, oil price, I don't know if you follow the crude oil, but you don't give a shit. But it's we just came off of I think usually like the price is in the 80s, $80 per barrel. It's tolerable. $100 per barrel is considered like this is like wartime pricing, right? We're currently at like 111, 112. So this happened real fast. So oil prices, crude oil is going through the roof. Commodities is going through the roof. Obviously, Russia is, wheat, palladium, aluminum, you name it. They dig shit from the ground over there. That's the whole business model, right? Also, what's happening in the US is very interesting. Military contractors are flying high. Raytheons, the General Dynamics, all of these are flying high. Cybersecurity is flying high. Fortinet, CrowdStrike, and even Palantir had a little bit of a upswing, even though they're kind of giving it back. But I think in general, the U.S. stock market has been fine. It had a little bit of a kind of invasion day slump, and then it's basically business as usual. It's going up. Jerome Powell was on TV yesterday saying, "Hey, we're only raising interest just a little bit, just a tiny bit, just to feel how it feels like." And they basically everybody said, "Well, good. We so I would say largely unaffected." But the thing is, look, as big as Russia is, the exposure of the S&P 500 to the Russian economy, honestly, is like 0.1%. It doesn't do anything, bro. Russia is just they dig shit from the ground. They sell like energy and resources. They're not a technological hub. There's not a lot of Russian companies on NASDAQ or in the New York Stock Exchange. There's just not a lot of exposure. In banking, there's a few banks who have high exposure to Europe and Russia, but that's pretty much it.
What are you doing then? So a lot of messages that I've had from friends over the last week or so has been around, shit, man, what's going to happen with the stock market? I've got investments, I've got crypto, I've got properties, I've got cash, I've got gold. Not trying to capitalize from a wartime problem,
war, yeah.
but the other way to look at this is
you play defense.
People, well, yeah, precisely. That people who haven't done anything wrong, just some guy in the middle of America who's been saving up and buying things and trying to invest appropriately could, if the situation was responded to more differently with the US stock market, could end up being wiped out by something that's happening on the other side of the planet. So what's your personal strategy, or what would you say to people around, here are some things that I would probably avoid over the next however long, here are some places that I would keep an eye on, etc.?
Okay, so there's two questions here, and they have completely different answers. So the more interesting question is crypto, which you ask, which is very smart, because whatever just happened right now is a second proof of the importance of cryptocurrency just after what happened in Canada. So I'm not a big crypto guy, but I understand the importance of having decentralized currency. When just a little while ago, everybody was talking about Canada, and the Canadian regulation basically allowing the government to dip into people's bank accounts and take money if they thought they were related to the protest, right? It's crazy. So proof number one. Then we have a couple of weeks go by. Now we have proof number two. Right now, and again, assuming we're talking about law-abiding, tax-paying, normal fucking engineers who don't give a shit about Russia or Ukraine, but they're stuck in fucking Russia and they need a way to feed their family, right? What do you have other than crypto, bro, to do that right now? The ruble is basically deflating faster than a drunk man at a Thailand whorehouse. Basically, so it's worthless, or it's about to be. So if you ever needed a proof of concept of how crypto plays a role in modern economy in this chaotic world, you have it right now. And the main part is that people were attacking crypto for the past few years. Basically, well, it's not transactional. It's not transactional.
What's that mean?
I mean, you can't go to a grocery store and pay with Bitcoin. It's really complicated. The fees are expensive. It takes time. It's complicated. It's not built for transaction. Well, some do. Like there's certain, not Bitcoin. There's more kind of. I'm not gonna promote any here, but there's more transactional cryptocurrencies. But we're talking about Bitcoin, which is kind of the gold standard, because Bitcoin doesn't need me to advertise Bitcoin. Come on. But all I'm saying is, like, proof of concept of why it's important, you just saw it. Like, Russian government literally telling their people, hey, motherfuckers, 80% of your cash converted to rubles right now, or foreign currency, right? If you have Bitcoin, I mean, that's the perfect example of they can touch you. And that's kind of the proof of why you want to hold it in a wallet and not in a proxy, through a brokerage. Because I've been having this debate with people, and it's like, when is the government ever going to force, where you go in Canada, here you go in Russia? So, okay, so that part is true. So cryptocurrency just got a big boost, and that's why I think it's running up, because people are seeing, okay, this makes sense. As far as how to play defense in the market, again, I don't have any understanding in day trading or swing trading. It's not my expertise. I don't understand nothing in it. I'm a long-term investor. Most of the companies I invested in, my portfolio is very narrow. Palantir, Tesla, Google, S&P 500. That's the only stock I have in my portfolio. As a long-term investor, all I suggest you do is just fucking chill the fuck down. Just go watch some porn, take a walk outside, take a hike, drink some coffee, just relax, bro. Because the only thing you need to do, Chris, is just pull out not what you think, pull out the S&P 500 and expand it to a 10-year period or a 5-year or whatever. You will see that no matter how much shit has been going on in the world, and believe me, for the past 10 years, there's been a lot of shit going on in the world. People forget we had the 2008 crash in the US. We had so much gnarly stuff going on in the world. The S&P 500, which is the US stock market, the US economy, always going up long term. If you're a long-term investor, you literally don't give a shit about short-term volatility. So I playing around with your portfolio too much. First of all, you're creating tax disadvantages, at least in the US. Now, you're in the US, you should know this. You're creating short-term capital gains. If you trade in and out of a stock, under a year, you just almost double your tax liability and completely killed your alpha. So there's that. Now, beyond the tax issues, of course, unless you have it in the IRA or 401, never mind. But beyond the tax issues, it's been statistically proven that there's a correlation between how much more you're active and how much more losses you get.
No
Like,
way.
no. There's literally a stat. I have to find it somewhere. So the S&P 500 went up for the past 10 years like crazy, right? You can pull up the chart. 85% of people who wars in the S&P 500 lost money. Only about 15% make money. Most people lose money in the stock market long term, even though it always goes up, because most people are impatient. Warren Buffett literally said this. He said the stock market is a wealth transfer mechanism from the impatient to the patient. So the worst thing you can do is fiddle around with your portfolio and try to time the market. Just again, if you're a swing trader, if you're a professional day trader, that's a whole different enchilada. I don't understand nothing. As a long term, if your friends are long term investors, just, unless you pick garbage stock, which is the whole different discussion that you might have to, fix your portfolio. But if you have solid conviction and you think you went for winners, what does the war in Ukraine change, really, bro? Okay, energy is going to be more expensive for a while. Probably inflation is only going to make it worse. Sure, but it's across the field. It's like playing soccer when it's raining or snowing. Everybody's in the same fucking pitch. It doesn't really matter.
Have you got any insight around people that are holding cash or real estate?
Well, I'm not a real estate guy, but the one asset that's been overperforming the market, and I'll tell you why, it's kind of an easy answer, is real estate. Real estate has been basically the best safe harbor. Like when you have inflation, what's the one thing you want to do? You want to hold assets, not cash, right? So cash, real estate, they're the opposite sides of the same story, right? In low inflation, you want more cash. In high inflation, you want more assets, because if you have a home, it's worth whatever it is it's worth. So you don't need to be worried about inflation. The problem is with real estate that what happened over the past 2 years is, again, you're on the ground, so you've seen this happen. The prices of real estate, because everybody understands this simple concept, right? The prices have lost all, like, bro, Justin and I was talking, he just sold this house. It's just, it gotten so bad, it literally killed Open Door and Zillow, bro. Because people it's the apps where you sell your house online. With the Open Door was Chamath, SPAC, like Zillow. Like people we don't need no help selling our house, bro. There's no need. Look, it's like we can double our money right now. So everybody's rushing towards real estate. So it becomes very dangerous. Like you just need to be careful. Again, you're probably more of a real estate guy than me, but conceptually, I would just be, not try and park my money unless I can get a good deal. And getting a good deal in real estate right now in the US is very tough.
It's the same in the UK. UK market's on fire at the moment. There was one of my buddies just sent me a stat around Rightmove, which is our equivalent of, you might even have it, it might work out here in America. And it had its busiest day ever. The most number of new properties and the highest volume of traffic not long ago.
Yeah.
Why?
And it's not like inflation is going away, Chris. I mean, we're at 7.5 right now. If energy prices keeps going up, inflation is not going to come down. It's simple. Because what do you need to make everything?
Energy.
Energy is more expensive. There you go. Simple. Not to mention the fact that you've pumped in $5.5 trillion into the system. That somehow it's like eating 5 trays of pizza, bro. You have to shit it out before you can go for a run. I mean, it's that simple, bro.
What do you think is going to happen in the medium to long term then?
Oh, that's a great question. Assuming that, look, the US has, I can only talk about the US. The US has an inflation problem that is kind of the perfect storm. Whenever you have a really bad situation, it's a combination of I always give the example of the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. Like, it was such an improbable event. So much had to go wrong in the same sequence for the shit to happen. But when it does, it's catastrophic, okay? So the US inflation problem is literally a combination of things that are, what are the odds? Well, there you go. Those are the odds. This just happened. Like Murphy's Law, bro. So the US problem is, number one, obviously they printed a lot of money. Every kid knows that. That's the easy part. So There's supply chain shortages. Okay, where people were more at home, and now you have uh, you have issues with basically the trucking industry, the logistic. Like, it's not easy right now getting people out of their homes. It started with COVID, but now people are basically saying, "Well, I can just fucking do affiliate marketing from home and make more money, right? Why would I go drive a truck, not be around my family for 3 weeks, right?" So you have to pay more to attract drivers or people who work in the logistical industry. So you pay more. Obviously, it's inflation. So um, and you have zero rate interest, which means everybody's spending. If you have zero rate interest, why would you hold your money in the bank? There's no point in saving money. 0% interest. So everybody's spending. So a lot of money in the system, crazy spending, logistical hardships. And on top of it, the US now has to face what they've neglected for the past 30 years. There's a major problem on the West Coast where all the goods from China, or not all, a lot of a lot of the goods from China are coming in from two ports, which is Long Beach and LA. And those two ports, when it was when it wasn't as crazy as now, it kind of held its own somewhat. It was, like it was up there. It was a little bit tough, but they held their own. But now, when basically we have the situation where they don't have the employees, where they literally, bro, they've literally not been sending crates and containers back to China because they don't have the manpower or the time to load it back on the ships going back, which has created an insane cost to containers, which is exaggerating the problem. So the U.S. has to fix the fucking infrastructure as far as the port system goes, as far as the trucking industry. There's like, look, think of it this way. On top of this all the situation I just described to you, if you could just raise interest rates, you would have probably alleviated a lot of the problem. If the government would say, "Hey, listen," like they did this in the 80s. There was a Fed chair, his name was Paul Volcker, and he did this in the 80s. He said, "Look, 15% interest right now." That's a major. It's like pulling the handbrake when you're going in the freeway, bro. So you might crash. Well, you're probably going to crash, but you're going to stop for sure. The problem is when Paul Volcker did this, we didn't have a U.S. debt the size of our GDP. We literally have 100% size of U.S. national debt compared to GDP. So we are servicing a lot of debt. So every percentage point we raise on the interest to slow down the market is going to cost $270 billion, give or take a few dollars. So why is the Fed now saying, "Oh, okay, just 0.25%"? Because they literally can't afford to do more. And when they say can't afford, they can always print more money. But what happens if you print more money to service the debt? You're basically just creating more cash in the system, basically making inflation worse. So they have to figure out, and there's long theories on how you can get this done. You can you can roll over a lot of. It's getting boring, so I'll do it quick. The U.S. is like when you take a mortgage and you go to the bank, right? And they tell you, "Okay, what kind of mix you want?" And you say, "Well, I don't want to put everything on just fixed. It's going to be expensive, right? Give me like half and half, right? I'll take half fixed and half variable because the variable is fucking cheap." So this is what the U.S. government has been doing, and that was okay. But now half, or I think more than half, of their U.S. national debt is basically dependent on interest rates. So they're super sensitive to interest rates. So they can pretty much say, "Hey, we're rolling over a big chunk of our national debt to 30-year, which is fixed, and then we're going to pay a little penalty, like 300 400 billion, because that's the difference. I think it's like 1.5% difference or 2%. So we're going to take the penalty. We'll pay the 400 billion, whatever it is, but we're going to stop any concerns of interest rates. Then we don't give a fuck, and we can raise interest rates and fix this. This would be one solution. It has its problems. The other solution would be to outgrow GDP out of the debt, which basically means reducing taxes, deregulating everything, let the economy go boom. But there's political issues with doing that. I mean, a democratic government lowering taxes doesn't really work. So they're stuck in this limbo. So the Fed and the government need to figure out a way to work together. Until the government provides a viability for the Fed to raise interest rates, the Fed is going to basically be stuck saying, "Well, we've decided not to raise interest rates." Because they can't. They literally are jammed until the government does something about the debt. So that's kind of my little quick primer about what's going on with inflation.
This seems fucked.
Yes. You know what? Alternative explanation, we're fucked.
This seems fucked. Dude.
They'll figure it out. Dude, look, we pay them to figure it out. We pay them to sleep at night and not worry about these things. Let them worry about the aliens and the national debt and all this stuff. We don't want to know, bro.
What are you worried about then? If you're not worried about the inflation and stuff like that,
I'm worried about being a good dad, man. That's the only thing I'm concerned about.
do you
I
struggle with
figured
that?
out. Yes,
What do you struggle with?
I have high standards of myself. I'll give you an example. So my dad, he was a cool dude, but he was a little bit of an absentee dad, not in that bad sense. He was just working a lot. You know what I mean? He was a good dude. Always like no issues. I love them, and I love him. He's still alive. I mean, we have a good relationship. Can always give him a call. But I mean, we didn't do jack shit together ever because he was always working. That's why initially I quit my job. Basically, I said I'm not going to be that guy. So my midlife crisis when I hit 40 was basically quitting my job and basically being like more of a dad. Now it's gotten to a point where I'm so fucking critical of myself. So my wife was away for 2 days and I was along with the 3 kids on my own, and I had to organize them in the morning to go to school. And the first day it was like Putin invading Ukraine, bro. It was
Shit show.
screaming at them. They're fucking crying. It's like getting to school late. They're all fucking like the whole day I'm sitting in the corner fucking shaking. How the fuck did I just fucking ruin this fucking morning? Like they forgot about it in 20 minutes, but I'm like
Yes.
my whole day is fucking gone to shit, bro.
Mm.
I was like, how motherfucker? It's like, and then I made the decision. I said, okay, so we have 2 more days. I'm gonna make it like as magical as possible. I'm gonna be like not the perfect dad, but I'm not gonna fucking let it happen again. And then the next days, bro, I kid you not, like people are like, oh, Palantir is down 12%. Like, motherfucker, I just had the best 2 days with my kids, bro. It was all fucking clockwork. Nobody, like everybody's happy. Took them out for ice cream. Mornings, like, everything was fucking lickety split. I was like, you're like, oh, Tom, are you not concerned about? No, motherfucker. That's the thing that I'm obsessing about. That's where I'm at right now in my life. I couldn't give less fucks.
Dude, I have a bunch of friends who are unbelievable high achievers, athletes, coaches, businessmen. And the thing that they struggle with is their ability to be a dad.
It's tough.
So I'm not a dad, at least not one that I know. And but I can't wait to be one. But the test,
it's the most exhilarating feeling ever. But when you fail at that, occasionally, it's soul crushing, bro.
High stakes.
Like, and sometimes they ask you the craziest shit. Like my 6-year-old asked me, it's like, how do a boy and a girl create a baby? It's like, or my older one is like, how do we know that God isn't black? Or like, they ask you the craziest shit. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, what? It's like they'll come out with some craziest. And my 4-year-old son, he has a photographic memory, bro. Don't forget jack shit. So he would come out, hey, 2 weeks ago you promised me this and this and that. I've been waiting for 2 weeks. What the fuck is this? And he's 4, bro. And he doesn't forget if you tell him so. So it's a tough gig, bro. But when you hit it right, it's like hitting that homer. Like, it's like it's better than sex, bro. When you hit it right, when you have like a perfect day, it's the best feeling ever, bro.
What do you need to work on then? If you were to look at your stats,
patience,
dude. That's the answer that every guy that I know gives.
Yeah, man. When you lose it, it's too late. You can't bring it back. You know what I mean? Because kids, they don't grasp it as like, oh, I fucked up, so dad is pissed off. They're like, oh, dad is screaming at me. Angry dad. You know what I mean? You're the meme.
Mm.
They don't give a fuck. They don't even remember what they did wrong. It's like, I'm not comparing kids to dogs by no means. But if you have a dog, like he doesn't understand sometimes, like why you're angry. You know what I mean? They'll do some, like, bro, I'll give you an example. Like the day that it all fell apart for me, it's like when they see you struggling, they'll push harder to try to break you. So we're ready. Like everything went to shit. We're at the door. My youngest is trying to get into the elevator himself, which is it's a life-threatening situation. So I'm trying to get him. My oldest is in the house refusing to come out. And my middle one is basically standing at the door, and I'm asking her, is this your jacket? I'm not sure. My wife usually knows. She says, no. And then my older one is screaming, yes, it's her jacket. It's like, is this yours? I said, no. And it's, no, she's lying to you. And like the kid is trying to get in the elevator. It's like, what is going on? It's like, they're testing me, bro. And like, so I eventually, I took the jacket. It's like, I'm going to put this in the trash until you tell me whose jacket this is. I was like, oh no, I just fucked up. When I said this, I was like, at this moment, he knew he fucked up. I was like, oh, fucking got me, bro. And the crying and everything. But the next 2 days, bro, I killed it. I fucking killed it out of the fucking park. Everything was pop, bro. I even like the second day, I decided I'll order pizza for them, which they love. But I fucked with them. I told them that everything we're having for dinner is just fucking vegetables. So they fucking filled up with a shitload of vegetables, and then I ordered the pizza after that.
Dropped pizza on them after that.
I
Yeah,
dropped
when they
pizza
were
on
full.
them.
Good.
Yeah, I was like, that's dad AAA, bro. It's like a homer, bro, when you do something
Well,
like that.
you're impressed about the fact that you managed to outwit 3 tiny idiots.
They're smarter than they look,
combined. Their combined age is less than half of yours, and you managed to outwit them, and you're somehow feeling satisfied about that.
You know how savvy kids are with reading you? Like, for example, if you read them a book, they can feel if you're impatient, if you just want to get it out of there and leave. Like the bedtime story, they can feel everything. Their emotional quantity is far better than grown-ups give them credit for. They understand everything. They're very smart. All kids, not just men.
You need a spreadsheet. You need a spreadsheet so that you can track them.
Oh man, it's gonna be the most complicated spreadsheet in humanity. Trust me, bro. You have it like, it's gonna look like the John Nash, the scribblings on the wall in fucking The Beautiful Mind, bro. It's gonna be something of that level, catastrophic.
That's where it needs to be, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, whenever it finally happens. I really am excited about the prospect of becoming a dad. One thing that I think about a lot is the intensity of emotions that you're going to have. It's the first time that you're going to touch something which is because of you, a living thing, which is because of you. And it doesn't surprise me that you see, there's videos on the internet, and they're funny or whatever, of parents going like full helicopter parent, snowplow parent shit. But I kind of understand the compulsion of where that comes from, that you have this tiny creature that you've brought into the world, and you're terrified of it being hurt or injured or upset or whatever. And your solution is to just knock everything in terms of challenges or discomfort out of their way. It's going to be the most intense emotions that I've ever felt in my entire life. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with that.
No, you'll be fine. And the more you have, the more you will find out that you had a lot of secret unemployment before in your life. So you'll have one. It's like, oh, I had so much time before in my life. And then you have the second. It's like, oh, shit, when I had only one, I had so much. And then the more you add, the more you realize you had more freedoms. When you have 3, bro, I don't know what it feels like to have more. But when you have 3, it's like, oh, this is like video game leveling up. It never gets easier. The problems get bigger. They get more crazier. It's a Guitar Hero on fucking, ultimate mode. It's like fucking, it's crazy, bro.
What are you doing next then? What are you working on, either personally or on the channel, or is dad mode and improving yourself as a dad? Is that one of the priorities?
That's the only priority. But what I'm doing as far as content is actually, I'm doing a new show with Justin. We're doing a show called Money Talks. It's a daily show, half an hour every day, 5 p.m., where we go at each other's throat. It's very different from the podcast you were on. It's basically, I don't know if you watch sports at all, but it's kind of undisputed or first take, but for stock market and financials. So we'll pick a few topics and we'll just basically, I'll destroy them. Simple. I'll go destroy and then fucking kill him, bro. And that's been a lot of fun. And I just, I don't have, like, people ask me, Tom, what if this whole YouTube thing is gone tomorrow? I honestly don't care, because I live so much below my means and I don't need really nothing. I haven't been splurging or spending at all, bro. Not because I'm cheap, because I don't need nothing, to be honest. I've been making a shit ton of money from YouTube. I live in the same apartment, drive the same car. I haven't bought any expensive jewelry. I literally done nothing with my money, bro.
Talk to me about that. So I found this fascinating. Every time that I speak to finance guys, they seem to fall into one of two brackets. One of them is the earn high, spend high, and the other one is sort of earn appropriate, spend low. And that's the Morgan Housel thing, that money is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, and no one can tell you otherwise. But the only way that you can win at the game of finance is to stop moving the goalposts. Every time that you decide that you're going to make an amount of money, and then once you've made that amount of money, you decide to either spend it or up your liabilities to the stage where you've now reset, you can't put the ball into the goal if the goal continues to move away from you every time that you get closer to it.
It's the recipe to being unhappy, man. What you just described. It's literally the recipe. It's there's a name for this. Spencer Coyne told me this. He didn't invent it, but I forgot the name.
Not hedonic adaptation.
Yes, thank you. Oh,
yes.
I feel like I just sneezed. Thank you.
So satisfying when that happened.
Yes,
dude. I was walking down the street the other day with my buddy in Austin, and I was trying to remember this guy's name, and then he caught on to who it was that we were trying to remember, and we were walking to a smoothie bar, and both of us were walking down the street, like hitting our heads, like shaking.
Yeah, I forget what the fuck is this.
Yeah, someone driving past must have thought, what the actual fuck are those two people doing? Like, having a psychotic episode as I'm walking down the street, desperately trying to remember this dude's name. And then one of us got it, and it was like someone had just won the lottery. We're like, fucking yes!
It's cathartic when you have that moment.
So
thank
good.
you for that. Yeah, thank you. You just gave me that.
Good.
Look, the thing is, have you ever bought something that you never thought you would be able to afford?
A house.
Okay. Well, a house is a utilitarian thing, but even a house actually fits into this. Okay. Let's say that you buy a fucking $3 million mansion. Okay. For the first 2 weeks, you're gonna be like, oh shit, the pool and the fucking gym and the fuck, bro. Week 3, you don't even give a fuck anymore. It's just a house, bro. It has zero added value to your happiness. You had it for 2 weeks, and it's the same thing, bro. You can go all the way up to helicopters, fucking yacht, and it will always be the first 2 weeks you're gonna be fucking jizzing over it, and then you don't give a fuck anymore. It's just a thing. Okay, so there's no point in chasing fucking happiness through things. It sucks being broke, and I guarantee you that your relationship will suffer if you're fucking broke and you can't fucking provide for your family. But as long as you're not broke and you can still provide for your family, everything else is fucking not necessary, bro. I can, like, people ask me, Tom, why don't you fucking sell a course? I mean, Kevin sells a course, $1,000 a pop, and he makes like what, 2-3 million a month, bro. I don't even know how much you make. Like, I could do that probably, and probably I can do a good course which people will like and not hate me for. But like, why? I'd be basically chasing something I don't need and adding more responsibility on me. Like, I find it really enjoyable just to come online and fucking rant about shit and have zero accountability responsibility, bro.
Do you not think that the information that you've got and the insights that you could give people would be able to help them make more money, make better financial decisions in their life?
Good question. And I'll tell you, yes, but still it's very dangerous. You remember the backlash that Meet Kevin got when he sold in? So Meet Kevin, the guy who has like what, 1.8 million subscribers in finance, and he said, "Oh, he sells a course, very expensive course," and he said, "Yeah, I'm not." There was a big dip, and tech stocks were dropping, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not selling. Buy the dip, you weak paper hands." Blah 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 blah. Comes out the next day, I sold everything. So people were like, "What the fuck, Kevin?" I mean. So they come out and say, what the fuck is your course? What's the value of the course if you basically do things on the whim or on the hunch? Like, it's complete. And it's like, no, there's a methodology behind it. It's like, yeah, in 20. So basically, I had him on my show and I told it to his face. I wouldn't have said the story if I didn't. I had it on my show and I interviewed him and said, listen, Kevin, I mean, I think it devalues significantly your course. So I would be saying this behind his back. He knows I said this to him. When I don't sell a course, I can do whatever the fuck I want, bro. I have zero responsibility and accountability to people. I don't want to have that on my back. Saying, "Oh, Tom, you taught me this skill, and for the past 6 months, and I'm gonna be explaining. Well, look, the market is like it's like being an employee again. I have to explain myself why you're not doing that well, bro. I just make funny videos about finance and geopolitics, and some people love them, some people hate them, and I get paid just enough have a comfortable lifestyle, bro. I don't drive a Ferrari. I don't drive a fucking Tesla. A very simple European car, very simple apartment. That's all I fucking need, bro. I don't need more.
So I think that I understand the aversion to pressure, right? I understand the fact that you're going to become accountable to the people that buy the course for the outcomes they get from the course. You're going to feel this sense of obligation to stick to the principles that you've come up with as a part of the course. I understand all of that. I do think the particular sort of audience that you've cultivated, I think that they would be very understanding. I think that you're quite open about the fact that you've got these failings and stuff. And
Bro, I had
know,
so
man.
much of them.
yeah, very, very public fuck ups.
I have the worst shooting percentage in like I'm like Russell Westbrook from the three, bro. I can't make it three.
The shittest financial advisor in history. Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I think that I think that there's an argument to be made that if you have an audience that will listen to you, that you know that you can add value to, I don't think that you should look at it as a purely sort of ruthless, capitalistic, taking advantage of my audience and stuff. And maybe the price that you have to pay for adding the maximum amount of value that you can to your audience is the accountability of the audience. Maybe that's a duty that you have to them. Maybe the fact that you're going to get people saying, well, Tom, I tried your course for this time and this thing didn't come off and blah, blah. Maybe if 60% of the people that do the course come out being better off, maybe the price that you have to pay is the fact that you're going to have to answer some uncomfortable messages.
You know what? If I ever do it, I'm going to offer lifetime refunds. That's for sure. Like, but then again, it doesn't really cover full, like, bro, if I refund somebody and they lost a shit ton of money, it's not gonna fucking help their feeling. You know what I mean? Okay, whatever. Like,
you are right. It's different. Creating a course about whatever, how to invest or how to operate your finances.
It's like, what's the worst thing you can happen if you teach me how to fucking game, right? I get a few no's.
Precisely, yeah. Like, it's different to making a morning routine or a productivity or something like that. Yeah, this is the fundamental currency that people run their lives with. So I understand that.
Think about it this way, Chris. How many people will, even though you tell them, hey, like I say this in my videos all the time. I said, the only money that should be in the stock market is money you can afford to lose. Shouldn't be your rent money, kids' college money, none of that shit. Only play money. And still, people will fucking go YOLO into fucking AMC and GME, bro. And they're gonna be like, hey, Tom, I did it. It's like, motherfucker, bro. So I had the guy, I won't forget this, bro. Crazy ass British guy who YOLO'd into GME. Dude has such a cool guy. Made $1.4 million. He went on leverage, bro. He had no money to even invest in GME. Wrote the whole thing up. And I fucking told him, sell. We had a private conversation. And I said, look, sell this, just fucking, his dad is working fucking remote, like in a different country. He's like, just sell, man. Didn't sell, bro. He only took out enough money to buy a Mercedes, like a small, like a class A, some shit like this. And like, yeah, he stayed in and you know what happened. People won't listen to you and then they'll blame you for not listening to you. Or they'll listen to you and they'll blame you for listening to you. It's like being a goalkeeper, bro, when you sell a course. It's really tough. Now, if you don't give a fuck and you say, well, I'm going to take my money and haters going to be hating, fine. I have the prerogative to say, hey, haters be hating if I don't sell nothing, bro. And people are like, oh, Tom, you have Patreon. Well, fuck off, motherfucker, with your fucking Patreon. Yeah, I have Patreon, bro. All my content is free. Suck my dick, bro. Fucking Patreon, bro.
NFTs.
Yeah.
I've come up with it. That's what you need to do.
I thought about it. It's so scammy.
Chill the shit out of yourself.
It's such a fucking crazy... Bro, NFTs is what the internet was in the late 90s.
Wild
in
West.
the late 90s, people thought that internet was just for porn.
People think that the blockchain's just for NFTs at the moment.
Yeah, and they think that NFTs is just this little fucking, monkeys or whatever the fuck that. They don't understand the potential of the technology, bro. NFTs, when they think it's just this little art projects.
You haven't made it until CoffeeZilla's done a video on you. Once Coffee's done a video on you, that's when I know that Tom has fully fucking reached apogee in terms of where you're going to get to.
He's killing it, bro.
He's on fire.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite fucking him, you, Filion, Spencer. I could watch Barely Sociable. I could watch this shit all day. All day.
You know who I watch and I enjoy his videos, even though there's a guy, his name is Bald and Bankrupt. This is a guy who
Bald
basically
and Bankrupt.
Bald and Bankrupt. So he's kind of, I mean, he's my age, so he's old. So he just he grabs a GoPro and he goes to these fucking crazy places. Like lately, he's been geeking over Eastern Europe, just looking for like he'll go to some post-Soviet village where he can find like a mosaic in the city square that's from the USSR. He'll like get into people's houses and fucking drink illegal booze with them, like in Russia, like crazy. Like you have to.
So is it vlogs? It's kind of like vlogs.
Yes, but it's like, bro, I can't explain to you why it works. It's like when I say vlogs, you're like, "Bleh." I say IRL, like, "Bleh." IRL vlogs. Bleh. No, but his is actually, it's very good. I can't explain it. It's brilliant.
Who else do you watch?
I watch his stuff a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I watch Drama Alert.
Oh yeah, fuck! Didn't you tell me that they were getting involved in this Russia shit?
Yeah,
What's happening there?
They made a video called "Russia Cancelled." I love Keemstar. He has such a nice way of serving you a burger when you just want a burger. You know what I mean? I love that. Here's the burger. I watch a channel called Mustard. Nobody has heard of it. Mustard is a engineering channel, so he'll break down, like create, like it's for super geeks, like warships from World War II and how they were.
I'm a fan of stuff like that.
So it's called Mustard, Mustard. He breaks down all trains, and what's brilliant about this channel, the narration is amazing, the research is amazing. He makes the most beautiful 3D models of the old stuff he's talking about that don't exist anymore. He almost kind of brings them back to life. Like he did a whole video about the Buran. The Buran was supposed to be a Soviet version of the space shuttle. It was never. It was almost finished, and so he brought it back to life. He brings shit back to life that don't exist anymore, and it's just so beautiful, bro. It's as pleasing visually as it is to hear about the stuff. Like he did a whole video about the Shinkansen and how like the origins, the Japanese bullet train, and how it started out, how it was complete failure, and like crazy shit, bro. Really good channel. You'd love this channel. I'm telling you right now.
It's wild. Some of the ones that go and do this unbelievable deep dive are just insane. Like Dagogo that does shit, I forget the channel's name. Anyway, like this Australian dude who does these unbelievable Jake Tran, bro. Jake Tran does
phenomenal
documentary level videos 3 days a week.
I don't know how.
Well, he's got. I think he's got a big editing team that's below him now, but still, like the research his, the production is mostly his, the recording's all his, and he was still putting that out when he first started. There's this channel called Melody Sheep. Have you heard of that?
No.
Oh man, it is
so many talented people.
So Melody Sheep's wild. They do one video about every 2 years, and it's fucking crazy. So they did one called Life Beyond Earth, which is a 3-part documentary series. The entire thing is 3D rendered in computer-generated imagery, and it takes you through the different ways that life could evolve on other planets. Let's say that this planet has really dense air. Let's say that this planet is completely gaseous. Let's see what happens if we take away carbon-based life forms and we create silicon-based life forms where their metabolisms are so low that they could live for millions and millions of years, and their thought cycles would be, the amount of time it takes a human, a star to live and die would be one thought from them, because that's how slowly that they would exist. Melody Sheep, 3-part series called Life Beyond Earth.
Wow.
Outrageous. It's so good. The whole thing's soundscaped, beautifully engineered, gorgeous voiceovers, and the visuals, and the whole thing's in 4K. I remember seeing some...
How do they make money with so scarce content?
I think they might have a Patreon or something, But these guys, they have to be professionals. There's no way that you could produce something like this and not be working for Netflix on the side or some shit. But then maybe not. Maybe they are just some bros.
Look at James Johnny, bro. James Johnny makes Netflix level documentaries.
I'm not familiar with him.
James Johnny? Oh, he's a very cool guy. He makes these unbelievable documentaries about money, marketing,
similar to Jake Tran, kind of like Jake Tran.
Yeah, darkish kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, very good creator.
Yeah, and OKI as well. OKI's Weird Stories is fantastic. It's kind of like Jake Tran, but for bizarre darknet stories. Yeah, you.
Oh, I think I've stumbled upon this. This is actually a very
OKI at the beginning. This Japanese girl does it. Yeah, it's awesome, man. There really is some like YouTube at the moment. If you get the right algorithm moving, my newsfeed on not the Chris Williamson channel that all this stuff goes out on, because that's just research and me doing all sorts of mad stuff. But on my personal one, it's just endless. Like all of the stuff that's on my suggested feed, I want to watch. Say what you want about YouTube, dude. That algorithm suggests fire all the time. It's always good shit that I want to watch.
I agree to that. Compare it to what YouTube used to be when it was just your subscription feed. The amount of trash you would I can't believe I'm still subscribed to that. I'm sure people say that about my channel.
I'm sure. Yeah, is that guy still going? That Russian guy? Surely not.
Russian guy.
I thought he's dead.
Chris, before you let me go to sleep because I told you I'm not in my 100%. I want to ask your opinion about something.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of a student of the game, and not that kind of game. But do you think there's a way, psychologically speaking, because you don't know the guy, that Putin actually can not demolish everything around him and just go back home and said, well, this was not a good idea? I fear that his ego would not allow him to do it anymore.
I think based on what very little I know about the man, I would say that seems incredibly unlikely. It's a huge embarrassment on the world stage. It would involve everybody mocking Russia as a global power for a very, very long time. It would mean that everybody else would feel like maybe he called our bluff, but he wasn't actually holding the cards in his hand that he said he was. So he's going to start to be bullied around. I mean, the sanctions that he gets long-term, let's say that he does decide to turn around and go back to Russia. Okay, so you've suffered, the Russian people have got all of these problems, the ruble's gone through the floor, you can't use SWIFT, you've spent all of this money, you've lost all of these soldiers, you've lost all of this military hardware, and for what? You know, so there's a gambler's fallacy thing here that's going on a little bit. There's a sunk cost fallacy that's going on. There's the fact that there's the ego. There's the fact that the Russian people, at least for the most part, are behind him. Again, there's another problem that you have here, that when the state media is pushing the narrative that you want to hear, the Russian people in no way are going to be prepared for you to then renege on what you were doing, because they've never heard another side of the story. There's no... I'm sure that the Russian media is showing absolutely zero potential that Russia can even lose this. Look at how well we're doing. Look at the progress that we're making on all fronts and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So no one's prepared for it. It would be an embarrassment domestically and internationally. In terms of his ego, I don't think it would take... I don't think that... I think the only way that would happen, that he would turn around and go home, is if he's losing so much men, or financially it becomes untenable to continue moving forward to the point where... But that's not even going to be a retreat. That's just going to fizzle out very, very slowly and then just die a death.
If you're right, it means very bad things for Ukraine, because it means that he will have to turn up the heat.
You mean in terms of military hardware? Like bigger bombs?
Bigger bombs, less strategic bombing, more kind of just basically...
indiscriminate.
Yeah. This is going to be horrific if this happens.
What do you think? What's your prediction?
Look, I honestly don't know, but I feel like if they give him 60% of what he wants, they might get a deal done.
What, chop Ukraine in half?
No. Well, he has to accept current government stays, and the West will have to accept no NATO ever for Ukraine, and the bits he already chopped off, he gets to keep. This deal can be probably worked out, but I feel like if you're Putin, you don't take this deal unless you think you're going to lose. And I don't know if he thinks that he's going to lose because these dictators, they tend to be detached. You know what I mean, Chris?
Are these peace talks just bollocks then? Because I'm hearing that there's peace talks proposed for this day and this day and this day.
Yeah.
And apparently the last time they had peace talks last week, Putin just used that as an opportunity to rotate his troops.
Yeah. Everybody's saying that it's garbage. It's just garbage time. I don't know. But I think if a deal can be made, it probably is within those boundaries of what I said, because everything else is going to be undoable for either party. Let's pray they can find a way to get a deal done, because if they can't, look, can you imagine like people who were like kids going to school just a week ago and fucking imagine bombs fucking falling in your neighborhood, bro. Just even if nothing happens to you, what it does to your psyche, bro. The post trauma, even without casualty, this is horrific, bro. I pray that it ends. I don't want war at all.
Man, there's people that were milkman last week. You know, your local postman and milkman are now holding AK-47s, stood side by side with Alexander Usyk, trying to stop an invading force. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And I think, you know, the one of the few positives that I think that you can draw from it is that it's reminded everybody. There was a presumption, I think, especially amongst young people, millennials, that because we haven't seen any conflict in our lifetime, that we we're in post-history. We'd got past the potential for war. Oh, look, we've managed to create peace through a combination of deterrence and like nice agreements and superpowers and super pacts that bind countries together.
Yeah.
And it's reminded everybody that you can have boots on the ground and guns in hands. And maybe it's given a wake-up call to a lot of people that thought it was all sweetness. And the same way as COVID, dude, you know?
I think things have been always fucked up. It's just now it's happening in Europe. And it's people like, oh,
feels
shit.
Close to home.
It's been happening like for the last 30, 40 years.
Syria,
you just don't
Afghanistan,
see it because
Iraq, Iran.
It's somewhere else. So you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Like those, like now it's happening next to their doorstep, and now it's fucking scary. So I feel like we should pray that this shit doesn't get out of hand, because we're one spit away from some horrific shit, bro. This is like 2022. Can you believe it?
Bro, here was something that I was talking about yesterday, that there's kind of, people are happy to talk about mental health and say, you know, it's okay to not be okay, reach out and talk to a friend if you're depressed, stuff like that. But it's supposed to be, there's still an element that's supposed to be for serious stuff. You know, my parents have died, or I've become homeless, or I've lost my job, or I've done whatever. Think about the last 3 years ish of experience for most people on the planet. It's been this just constant ambient anxiety, concern about a virus, uncertainty about the future, working from home, lack of social contact, no time with parents, no time with friends, no time outdoors, getting more unhealthy, eating shit food, spending time in the house, being bombarded by news media, lack of information that we can trust, lack of news organizations that we can trust, lack of politicians that are telling the truth, complete loss of confidence in all of that stuff. And then the icing on the top of the cake is, a
war.
Correct.
On top of it.
Yep.
Insane, bro. I've never thought about it this way, but now that you say it, I'm literally like, oh shit.
But the thing to think, dude, you know, and for anybody that's got through the last couple of years with their sanity even remotely intact, can be pretty proud of themselves. Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, and that's the thing, because it's not, there's no glory attached to it. There's no prestige. You don't get a blue tick on Twitter for doing this. You don't get any money in your bank account for having done this. But if you've been somebody that's been there when one of your friends has rang you and said, man, I feel pretty shitty, today. I don't really know what's going to happen with my job or my girlfriend or my house or my investments or whatever. If you've been the person that's been there, or even if you've just been the person that's been the one ringing and you've managed to make it through on the other side, I think that's something that you should clap yourself on the back for.
I feel a blue ticker or all the verification tickers, if you're married, they're meaningless. It's a... I don't care, bro. If I was single, I would definitely want one, bro.
I get you. Look, Tom, let's bring this home, man. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you do. Tell everyone where they should go if they want to keep up to date with the stuff that you put out.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at I am Tom Nash. My channel is Tom Nash, youtube.com/Tom Nash TV. You can also see me daily on a channel called Sents Invest, SENTS Invest. We have a daily show called Money Talks with me and Justin, which you've met. I think that show is going to be brilliant. We're on episode 15, and it's going to be epic. And other than that, don't look for me anywhere else because I don't want to be found. And I'm very intentional about it.
Good man. Brother, thank you so much for today.
Later.
What's happening, people? Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that episode, then press here for a selection of the best clips from the podcast over the last few weeks. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.